Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 450 Southeast Hogan Road here in Gresham. Starting out here, we're trying to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. I've been trying to hunt down a clean out, not having a whole lot of luck here. Luckily the toilet has already been pulled. Just noticed that. So anyway, we're going to attempt to go from here. My big hindrance on this place right now is that water's turned off to it. And whether we go through a roof vent or a toilet, both of those access points, not in every circumstance, but often do require a decent amount of water flow. So what I'm hoping here is we can get far enough to maybe hunt down a clean out. We have a straighter shot in. I've always got a couple gallons of water that I bring with me. But these are usually for like plastic cleanouts and short runs on newer homes. Right out of the gate, you have very, very heavy scale buildup. And what I'm going to do here, once I get a little ways down line, is I'm going to locate to see if we're going out the back of the home or not. Figure I probably had seen a clean out already if we were going out the back, but we'll see. Anyway, you can see there on the side walls of the pipe, on both sides you have some very thick scale. At the very least, the line could use a thorough descaling to get all that stuff out of there. It's very rough and jagged, and it tends to make a line prone to blocking because of that rough texture. And you often get an acceleration of this stuff once a line stops being used. The pipe dries out and the scale will start to peel loose from the pipe wall. Yeah, we need to definitely have a clean out. I can barely get the camera to move right now. A lot of it's the initial turn into the line here. The line hits you haven't seen that part, but when I back the camera out, you'll see it. The line hits a vertical stack right at the start. That's the nasty turn that really gets you here. Alright, we're going to go locate and see where we are here. Alright, I'm going to see if I can keep babying this thing along. We are actually going out the front. I've got one more jug of water here I can put down the line. And right now, we're about halfway between the house and the street edge. And the nice part here, I can tell you, once we hit the street edge, I'm going to call it a day. This is very, very rough on the camera. But in Gresham, the city takes responsibility. Unless something's changed, it's even better than the rest of Multnomah County. Most of Multnomah County, in Portland anyway, it's at the street edge. In Gresham, generally speaking, it's at the right of way, so it's even further back onto the property. me see if I can baby this thing along. Right now, we are actually at the end of responsibility already. I'm gonna see if I can push it another couple feet. I'm not gonna get too crazy with this. Where my locate just came in there was about 18 inches from the street edge. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a day there. And at any given point, like right now, we're able to see another 3 feet or so down line. So we are seeing all the way into the street right now. What I'm gonna do is I back the camera is I'm gonna mark the line. It's a very rare scenario to have a line like this where you're 100% cast iron pipe up to at least the street edge. It's a very uncommon thing. And generally speaking, it's a good thing, especially if it's really old cast iron. I forget when cast iron got outsourced to production in China. It was sometime around the late 50s, if I recall, somewhere in that ballpark. Anyway, your 1910 cast iron, for instance, will outlive 1970s cast iron by a country mile. It's not even close to the same pipe product. So, anyway, what I'm seeing here is a lot of scale buildup in the line. So this is a line I highly recommend descaling, which is that's not your average jetting job. It's a very thorough process you have to go through. To knocking the scale loose is not the hard part. It's blasting all of it out of the pipe. So it's often done in conjunction, sometimes with 2 different machines, a flex shaft or something like that to grind all the stuff loose, and then a jetter to blast all of it out of the pipe. For 2 reasons. That is to smooth the line out so it flows properly. 2, to make sure you don't have any rotted spots hiding underneath the scale. Generally speaking, this looks like older cast iron here from what I can tell. Anyway, sometimes, and I don't see a heavy channel in the flow line, which is a good sign. When you start getting a big trough in the middle of the flow line, that's where it's more concerning. I would tell you it wouldn't even be worth your time to clean it. You just want to make sure, because what can happen is you can get rotted spots, pinholes, things like that can hide behind the scale layers. So you won't see them until you strip the stuff off of there. The plus side with this line is at the street edge there, we're only at about 3'11" to 4 feet deep. It's extremely shallow, and it's essentially 100% under grass and dirt all the way up to the street edge. So if a repair was necessary, it's a pretty darn easy line to get to, and it runs basically dead straight. All right, now we're about middle of the front yard, only about 3 foot 4 inches deep there. We'll start hunting down as I come back and get close to the foundation wall. I'm hoping to see a clean out. However, when it comes to descaling a line properly, what jetters do their best work when you pull them backwards. In a lot of cases, it depends on the nozzles you have on them. You can get pusher nozzles that can do a pretty good job going with the direction of flow, but sometimes it's a better setup to have a 2-way access point. That way you can push the jetter back into the home and drag all the scale out. The way that jet fans work, they work like a squeegee. So anyway, that may be necessary. You have to just see what kind of equipment a company has to work with, but pusher nozzles can do a pretty good job. You know what? That might be right there. These clean out access tie-ins are very hard to see in cast iron. All right, this is not a clean out I'm going to try and mess with opening. It might be worthwhile to do for a cleaning process, but the line comes out of the house to the left of the doorway. That's as you face the front of the home from the street. That's how I describe everything in general. Right now, the clean out is parked. There's a rose bush almost planted directly on top of it, and then another rose bush right next to it. It's a very difficult spot to work in. Realistically, to gain access to that, you probably have to take those rose bushes out so you don't mangle yourself. Anyway, you can see that huge chunk of scale there that busted loose. That's a concern, is this stuff will start to flake off, especially after the line is dried out. And you end up with these huge piles of very thick, heavy, jagged rust in the flow line that'll snag everything as it comes through the line. But other than scale, by and large, all the pipe looks extremely round. I've cambered over 25,000 sewer lines over my 15 years of doing this. when I get more concerned about scale is when we see heavy scale buildup and also very obvious troughing or channeling in the flow line, where you can tell the metal, the pipe bottom is being eaten away. I don't see that here. I'm seeing, by and large, very round looking pipe. So I think on the back side of that scale, I don't want to call it before we see it, but it looks like we have some fairly healthy looking metal from what I can tell anyway right now. And I don't see any obvious standing water in the line. I was able to put in total about 4 gallons of water down the line. By and large, everywhere in the line it drained off. The only spots where there might be a little standing water is where you have some scale in the flow line kind of damming the pipe up. So this is one that I think is worth getting cleaned out and spending the time and the money to do it, because I think all said and done, I think we're going to have a good result from what I can tell right now. It's worth a shot on this one.